Welcome back to Crafted Nest, the place where forgotten objects find a second chance to bloom. Today, we'll take the art of observe, imitate, and modify, and bring it alive through garden ideas that turn trash into timeless treasures. Imagine an old bottle glowing like stained glass in the sun, or a broken teacup reborn as a planter for herbs. Every project you'll see is not only practical, but poetic, designed to spark joy, save money, and inspire your creativity. Stay with us until the end, because each idea is simple enough for anyone to try at home, yet magical enough to make your garden feel like a sanctuary. And before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Crafted Nest, your home for weekly inspiration where creativity meets sustainability. Let's grow something beautiful together. If you've ever glanced at an old tire lying abandoned by the roadside, it might have seemed like nothing more than waste. But with a touch of imagination, that very tire can become a whimsical garden planter that brings life and color to your outdoor space. This is the beauty of DIY, seeing potential in what others call trash, and turning it into a treasure that sings with personality. Picture this: a set of tires painted in joyful shades of turquoise, yellow, or fuchsia, each one cradling blossoms that spill gently over the edges. Their circular frames become little worlds of greenery and flowers, catching the eye of anyone who walks past. Tires are sturdy, weather-resistant, and easy to shape into creative designs. Whether you hang them from a tree branch or stack them into a playful tower, they add an unexpected charm to your garden. One practical tip is to drill a few small holes at the bottom for drainage before filling the tire with soil. This prevents your plants from drowning after heavy rain. Adding a splash of outdoor paint not only makes the tire pop with vibrancy, but also protects it from the elements. If you want to save space, try hanging a tire planter on your fence and fill it with trailing plants like ivy or petunias. The cascading effect looks magical. What makes this project so rewarding is how accessible it is. You don't need advanced tools or a big budget. Just a spare tire, some paint, and your favorite flowers. And suddenly, what was once forgotten becomes the heart of your garden. It's a reminder that beauty often hides in the most unexpected places, waiting for us to bring it back to life. There's something enchanting about glass in the garden. When sunlight touches a bottle, it bends the light, casting playful glimmers that dance across leaves and soil. What once was a collection of empty soda bottles or discarded wine containers can transform into glowing borders and magical walls, giving your outdoor space a touch of wonder. Imagine walking along a pathway lined with glass bottles, each one buried neck down into the earth. The morning sun catches their curves, creating a rainbow-like shimmer as you stroll past. It's simple, yet it feels like stepping into a secret garden. And beyond their beauty, these bottle borders act as a sturdy and eco-friendly edging for your plants or pathways. Another inspiring idea is crafting a garden wall out of bottles. When stacked tightly with mortar or wood frames, the bottles become tiny windows for light. In the late afternoon, your wall comes alive as golden rays pass through, scattering patterns across your garden floor. It's a sustainable solution that not only recycles waste, but also adds a striking architectural touch. If you prefer something smaller, try turning bottles into lanterns. Place a candle or insert fairy lights inside, hang them from branches, and you'll have a warm, glowing atmosphere that feels welcoming in the evening. The beauty of working with glass bottles is how accessible it is. No fancy tools required, just a careful eye and a bit of patience. And every time the sunlight hits, you're reminded that light can pass through even the most ordinary things, revealing unexpected beauty. It's not just garden decor, it's poetry written in glass and sunlight. Sometimes the simplest materials hold the greatest promise. A weathered wooden pallet, often left forgotten in warehouses or alleys, can rise again as a rustic vertical herb garden, a living wall that breathes fragrance and freshness into your backyard. This is where practicality meets poetry, where each slat becomes a cradle for life. Picture a pallet leaning gently against your fence, pockets of soil nestled between the boards, sprouting basil, rosemary, thyme, and mint. With every brush of your hand, you release a fresh scent that mingles with the warm afternoon air. The sight of those small leaves reaching toward the light is not only beautiful, it's deeply satisfying. You're nurturing both your garden and your kitchen, bringing flavors straight from the wall to your table. One helpful tip is to line the palette with landscaping fabric before adding soil. This prevents the dirt from spilling out while keeping the roots secure. Labeling each section with handwritten wooden tags adds a personal touch, turning your garden into both a pantry and a piece of art. And if space is limited, this vertical design is a blessing, a compact solution for balconies, patios, or tiny courtyards. What makes this project so rewarding is its accessibility. You don't need expensive materials, just an old palette, some creativity, and a little patience. Over time, your herb garden becomes more than just a source of ingredients. It becomes a companion. It greets you each morning with new growth, offers comfort with its scents, and reminds you that even the humblest scraps of wood can become a source of abundance. This is the heart of DIY gardening. Not perfection, but transformation. From rough timber to fragrant harvest, it's proof that beauty can grow vertically, even from the simplest of beginnings. Every broken piece tells a story. A chipped plate, a cracked teacup, or a shattered tile once belonged to everyday life. Instead of discarding them, why not let those fragments find new purpose beneath your feet? With a little patience, broken ceramics can be reborn as stepping stones, guiding your walk through the garden with color and memory. Imagine strolling along a pathway where each step lands on a mosaic of blues, greens, and yellows, sparkling under the afternoon sun. The shards catch the light, turning something ordinary into something magical. Each stone is unique, no two patterns alike, like little artworks laid gently on the ground. It's not just a walkway, it's a gallery of moments preserved in color and texture. Creating mosaic stepping stones is simpler than it looks. Use a mold or an old cake pan, pour in cement, and gently press the ceramic pieces into place. Once it sets, smooth out the surface with grout, and you'll have a durable piece of art ready for the outdoors. A useful tip is to seal the stones with weatherproof coating, ensuring the colors stay vibrant through rain and shine. Beyond their beauty, these stones carry emotion. That old bowl from your grandmother, now part of your garden path, becomes a bridge between past and present. Each step you take isn't only practical, it's a walk through stories, memories, and creativity. In the end, what was once broken doesn't remain lost. Instead, it becomes part of something greater, something that brings joy and meaning to your everyday walk. This is the true magic of mosaics, turning fragments of yesterday into the foundation for tomorrow. There is a certain poetry in the way the wind moves through objects, turning silence into music. Old keys that once opened doors, spoons that once stirred soup, and bottle caps that once sealed laughter-filled evenings. All of them can sing again when gathered into a wind chime. What others see as junk becomes an instrument of calm. Picture this. A gentle breeze sweeps across your garden, and suddenly the air is filled with a soft, melodic clinking. Each sound is unique, unpredictable, and soothing. It feels as though the wind itself is speaking, weaving forgotten fragments of metal into a lullaby for your home. These wind chimes not only bring charm, they bring presence, a reminder to pause and listen. Creating one is as simple as tying strings to an old branch or wooden ring, then attaching your chosen scrap items. Keys produce a delicate tinkle, spoons a deeper chime, and caps a playful rattle. Experiment with different objects and placements to find your garden's perfect voice. One practical tip is to coat the metals with clear varnish if you want to reduce rust while keeping their rustic shine. The beauty of this DIY is that it's never uniform. Each chime carries its own personality, depending on what materials you have. And every time the wind blows, it plays a song that belongs only to your garden. In a world often filled with noise, these homemade chimes create harmony. They remind us that even the most ordinary scraps can find a new life, not just as decoration, but as music. The music of renewal, resilience, and joy. Water, the lifeblood of every garden, often slips away faster than we realize. But what if a simple plastic bottle, something we usually throw away, could become a clever guardian that keeps your plants nourished day after day? That is the gift of self-watering planters, simple, sustainable, and surprisingly elegant. Picture this, a line of bottles, each cut in half, the top inverted like a funnel and filled with rich soil. A string of cotton threads dips into the water reservoir below, slowly feeding the plant above. It's quiet magic, the earth drinking at its own pace, without waste, without hurry. Your herbs stay lush and green, even when your busy days keep you from watering. One practical tip is to use dark-colored bottles or paint the outside to block excessive sunlight, which helps reduce algae growth inside the water chamber. Another trick is to test with different wick materials. Cotton works beautifully, but recycled cloth strips also do the job. Over time, you'll notice your plants growing healthier, their roots always gently hydrated. This project is perfect for those living in small spaces or with busy schedules. Place the planters on your balcony, windowsill, or even indoors near a sunny spot. You'll not only save water, but also save time, all while giving plastic a second life that truly matters. More than a gardening hack, these self-watering bottles are a quiet teacher. They remind us that sustainability isn't complicated. It's about noticing possibilities hidden in the simplest things. With every green leaf that thrives, you'll see that care doesn't have to be constant, but it must be thoughtful. And in that balance, beauty grows. Every piece of furniture carries a story. The chair that once held quiet conversations, the dresser that once cradled folded clothes. They may grow old, but they need not grow useless. With a little creativity, they can be reborn in the garden, not as forgotten relics, but as living planters overflowing with life. Picture an old wooden chair, its seat hollowed out and replaced with a pot of bright geraniums. The weathered paint, chipped and softened by time, contrasts beautifully with the fresh bloom of flowers. It becomes a sculpture of contrasts, the old and the new, decay and renewal, woven together in a single frame. Now imagine a dresser, its drawers pulled open at playful angles, each one spilling with ivy, petunias, or mint. From afar it looks like a cascade, a waterfall of green and color tumbling down. It is whimsical yet practical, breathing new life into something that might have been destined for the landfill. One helpful tip is to drill drainage holes in the drawers or chair seat before planting, ensuring your flowers thrive without waterlogging. Painting the furniture in weatherproof colors adds not just charm, but also longevity. And if you love the rustic look, leaving the wood raw allows the patina of time to shine through. These vintage planters are more than decor. They are reminders that nothing truly loses its value. What once belonged to the indoors now finds a second act beneath the sky, carrying beauty in unexpected ways. Each bloom tells you, even what seems worn out can still hold a garden in its heart. A garden path is more than a walkway. It is an invitation, a guide, a quiet story beneath your steps. And when built with recycled bricks and broken tiles, that story becomes even richer. Each fragment carries history. Each crack whispers of another life, now woven into the present as part of something beautiful. Imagine strolling through your backyard, your feet tracing a mosaic made from discarded tiles and uneven bricks. Sunlight strikes the glazed surfaces, making them gleam like hidden jewels among the soil and moss. The pathway doesn't strive for perfection. Instead, it celebrates character. Every imperfection becomes a mark of authenticity, every irregular edge a testament to resourcefulness. Building such a path doesn't demand expensive materials. Collect leftover bricks from old construction or salvage broken tiles from renovation projects. Lay them out on compacted soil, filling gaps with gravel, sand, or even moss for a natural finish. A useful tip is to arrange larger pieces at the center for stability, while smaller shards can be used along the sides for decoration. The result is both practical and artistic, guiding your way while brightening your garden with unexpected colors. The beauty of recycled pathways lies in their adaptability. Straight or winding, bold or subtle, they mold themselves to your space. And every time you walk across, you'll feel the union of utility and art under your feet. These pathways remind us that nothing truly goes to waste. Bricks once part of a wall, tiles once part of a floor, now they serve again, carrying you through your garden. It is a gentle lesson. With imagination, even fragments can lead us forward. Every bicycle carries echoes of journeys once taken, childhood rides down quiet streets, errands to the market, or leisurely evenings along winding roads. When those wheels no longer turn, their story doesn't have to end. In the garden, a bicycle frame can be reborn as a sculpture, a planter, or even a trellis that marries memory with creativity. Picture an old bicycle leaning gracefully against a fence, its basket overflowing with petunias and marigolds. Ivy climbs through the spokes, weaving itself into patterns of green lace. What was once a vehicle of motion now becomes a still life of beauty, rooted firmly in place, yet alive in spirit. A bicycle wheel alone can serve as a canvas. Mounted upright, it makes a perfect trellis for jasmine or climbing roses. The spokes guide each vine upward, creating a delicate geometry that changes with the seasons. Or, for the bold, weld multiple frames together into whimsical sculptures, abstract forms that catch the eye and start conversations. Practical tips: if you're using a full bike, remove the tires to prevent decay and paint the frame with weatherproof colors. Bright hues like turquoise or sunflower yellow can turn it into a cheerful focal point. Wheels can be sprayed with protective coating to hold their shine through rain and sun. These sculptures are more than decorations. They are reminders of movement, of life cycles, transformed into art that rests quietly in your garden. Each rusted spoke and curved handlebar speaks of the past, yet in their new role, they celebrate growth. It's a way of saying that beauty doesn't fade with time. It simply changes shape, waiting to be discovered anew. Sometimes the most enchanting illusions come from the simplest objects. An old window frame, once part of a forgotten house, can become a mirror that doubles the beauty of your garden. It doesn't just reflect, it transforms. With every glance, it opens the imagination to spaces that feel larger, deeper, and more magical. Picture a wooden frame, its paint chipped by time, hanging gently on a fence. Inside, a mirror captures the blossoms swaying in the breeze, making your garden appear twice as lush. The reflection draws your eyes into another world, as though you're peeking into a secret garden that exists just beyond your own. Placing mirrors in the garden isn't only aesthetic, it's practical. They brighten shaded corners by bouncing sunlight where it rarely reaches. A small space feels more expansive, alive with dimension. One helpful tip: angle the mirror slightly downward, so it reflects flowers and greenery instead of the sky, creating the illusion of endless depth. Another is to seal the edges with waterproofing to protect it from rain and humidity. You can keep the frame rustic, embracing its weathered charm, or paint it in fresh, cheerful colors to match your plants. Either way, the effect is captivating, a simple transformation that turns old wood and glass into a portal of beauty. What's most inspiring is how this project reminds us of perspective. A mirror doesn't create new flowers, it shows us the beauty we already have, doubled. In life and in the garden, sometimes we just need a fresh view to realize how much abundance surrounds us. That's the quiet gift of an old window reborn. It teaches us to see again, with wonder. There is a certain warmth in wooden crates, simple, sturdy and timeless. Once used to carry fruits or store tools, they can be reborn in the garden as charming displays for herbs. Stacked like steps, these crates create a living staircase of fragrance and color, turning even the smallest corner into a delightful patch of abundance. Imagine a tiered arrangement of crates leaning gently against a wall, each level brimming with basil, thyme, mint, and parsley. The green leaves spill over the edges, their scents carried by the breeze. The wood, weathered by time, contrasts beautifully with the fresh vibrancy of the herbs. It feels rustic yet elegant, practical yet poetic. Building this display is simple. Place one crate on the ground, then stack the others slightly back to create natural tiers. Line the inside with landscape fabric or plastic to keep soil in place, and don't forget to drill small drainage holes. A useful tip is to dedicate each crate to a different family of herbs, culinary on one, medicinal on another, so that harvesting becomes both easy and organized. If space is tight, crates can be arranged vertically, forming a compact wall of greenery that thrives even on a balcony or patio. Paint them in cheerful colors for a playful touch, or leave them bare to embrace their rustic charm. Either way, they bring structure and life where once there was only empty space. These crate gardens remind us of resourcefulness, how everyday objects can hold unexpected beauty when given a new purpose. Each leaf that grows in them is proof that simplicity can be powerful and that nourishment for both body and spirit can bloom from the humblest of boxes. There's a certain delight in surprising the eye, in turning something ordinary into something extraordinary. A bathtub once filled with water, a sink once washed with soap, they can be reborn in the garden as vessels of life, overflowing not with water, but with flowers. What was once a utility becomes a centerpiece, bold and whimsical, yet deeply rooted in sustainability. Picture an old clawfoot tub resting quietly in your backyard, its enamel worn by years of use. Now, instead of baths, it carries cascades of marigolds, daisies, and lavender. The sight is both unexpected and joyful, like stumbling upon a secret garden tucked inside a memory. Nearby, a porcelain sink brims with geraniums, its glossy surface catching the sunlight and reflecting colors in every direction. Together, they create a corner that feels playful and magical. To create such a feature, start by drilling small drainage holes in the bottom of the tub or sink. Fill with good soil and choose plants that love depth, as tubs especially can hold plenty of roots. Herbs, flowers, or even vegetables thrive in these containers. Painting the exteriors with cheerful, weatherproof colors adds another layer of personality, soft pastels for charm, or bright tones for a bold statement. One helpful tip: place these planters strategically where they can serve as focal points, perhaps at the end of a pathway or under a tree. Their size and character naturally draw the eye, turning them into living sculptures. These upcycled beds remind us that beauty doesn't always need to be conventional. Sometimes, it's the unexpected twist, the tub in the garden, the sink in the soil, that makes us pause, smile, and fall in love with the ordinary all over again. Light has a way of transforming spaces, of softening edges and weaving warmth into the night. And when captured inside a simple glass jar, it becomes something magical. What once held jam or pickles can be reborn as a lantern, swaying gently in the evening breeze, guiding gatherings with a glow both humble and enchanting. Imagine walking into your garden at twilight, the sky painted in hues of pink and violet. Above you, glass jars dangle from tree branches, each holding a small candle or a string of fairy lights. Their glow spills through the glass, scattering gentle patterns on the grass below. It feels like stepping into a dream, a place where everyday objects whisper with wonder. Creating these lanterns is wonderfully simple. Wrap sturdy twine or wire around the neck of each jar, making sure they hang securely. Slip in a candle for a warm, flickering glow, or use battery-powered fairy lights for safety and ease. Painting the jars in translucent colors adds another layer of charm. When lit, they cast shades of blue, red, or green, like stained glass windows floating in the air. One practical tip: group the jars at different heights to create depth and movement. Hang them from trees, pergolas, or even along fences to guide pathways. For outdoor dining, cluster them above a table to set a mood that is both cozy and romantic. These lanterns remind us that beauty often lies in the simplest details. A jar that once lived in the kitchen now carries light into the garden. In their glow, we see how even the most ordinary objects can brighten not only our spaces, but also our moments together. In the rhythm of a garden, sound plays its part. Birds sing, leaves rustle, and sometimes, with a little creativity, even bottle caps and spoons join the chorus. What once clinked on tables or sealed a drink can now dangle in the air, catching the wind and transforming it into music. These mobiles are not just decorations, they are instruments of joy, made from the humblest of scraps. Picture a string of colorful caps swaying alongside polished spoons, each piece moving freely as the breeze drifts through. When the metal touches, it creates a light, playful jingle, cheerful, imperfect, and deeply human. It's a sound that feels handmade, a melody born not from precision but from imagination. Making these mobiles is simple yet satisfying. Collect caps in different colors, drill tiny holes, and thread them onto strings. Add spoons or forks for depth of tone, then tie everything to a branch or a sturdy ring. Hang it in the garden, on the porch, or by a window where the wind is most alive. A helpful tip: vary the lengths of strings so that the pieces strike each other differently, creating a layered harmony rather than a single note. Over time, the metals may tarnish, the caps may fade, but that is part of their charm. Their voices grow softer, warmer, like a story told again and again. These mobiles remind us that music doesn't always need instruments. Sometimes, it's enough to let the wind play with what we already have. And so, what once cluttered drawers or filled recycling bins now sings above your garden, proof that beauty and sound can bloom from the simplest of beginnings. There's a special kind of wonder that stirs when the ordinary becomes magical. A teapot, once used to pour warm tea on quiet afternoons, can be transformed into a tiny home for fairies, sitting quietly in your garden and inviting imagination to bloom alongside the flowers. Picture a porcelain teapot nestled among moss, its spout painted into a little chimney, its body adorned with tiny windows and doors. Around it, miniature plants and pebbles create the illusion of a woodland village. Children gaze at it with wide eyes, as if expecting a fairy to peek out and wave. Adults smile too, reminded that playfulness never truly leaves us. Creating a fairy teapot house is both simple and delightful. Start with an old or chipped teapot, then decorate it using outdoor paint or glue on tiny craft pieces like beads, buttons, or wooden cutouts. Drill a small hole at the bottom for drainage if you plan to plant succulents or moss inside. A useful tip is to place these teapot houses in shaded corners or near pathways, where they surprise visitors like hidden treasures waiting to be found. What makes these projects enchanting is not just their appearance, but the stories they suggest. Each teapot can become a different home, one for forest fairies, another for garden sprites, another perhaps for a wandering gnome. No two designs are ever alike, because each one carries your own imagination. These fairy houses remind us that the garden is not only a place of growth, but also of dreams. In every flower bed and under every leaf lies a chance to rediscover wonder. And sometimes, all it takes is an old teapot and a little creativity to open that door to magic. Sometimes the most vibrant gardens grow not from expensive planters, but from the simplest scraps. A tin can, once tossed aside after holding beans or soup, can rise again as a vessel of beauty. And when painted in bold colors and stacked into towers, These can transform into joyful sculptures that breathe energy into every corner of the garden. Picture a column of cans painted in sunshine yellow, ocean blue, and fiery red, each one bursting with blossoms. From above, cascading vines trail downward, softening the metal edges with life. The tower becomes more than a planter. It becomes a statement, a celebration of color and resilience. Creating one is easy. Clean and dry your cans, then paint them with waterproof acrylics or spray paints in hues that make you smile. Drill small holes at the bottom for drainage, fill with soil, and stack them using a wooden rod or sturdy pole through the center to keep them stable. A useful tip: plant cascading flowers like petunias or trailing herbs in the upper cans and sturdier blooms in the lower ones for balance and variety. These towers are perfect for small spaces. Even in a modest balcony, a single stack of cans can hold a mini vertical garden that delights the eye and lifts the spirit. And if you want to involve children, let them paint the cans. Their imagination will turn the towers into works of art. Each tin can flower tower carries a lesson. Beauty doesn't need to be grand to be meaningful. With a splash of paint and a seed of creativity, even the humblest of containers can rise tall, bright, and alive, becoming a joyful tower of life. Not all beauty comes from softness. Sometimes it rises from rust, weight, and steel. In the garden, even the hardest materials, gears, pipes, bolts, and chains, can take on new life as sculptures that bridge the rawness of industry with the grace of nature. These metal scrap creations stand tall, proud, and unexpected, bringing character to every corner they inhabit. Picture a flower taller than yourself, crafted entirely from welded spoons and iron rods. Its petals gleam in the afternoon sun, and though it will never wilt, it feels alive beside the blooms around it. Or imagine a dragonfly made from bicycle gears and bolts, perched among daisies, its mechanical wings catching the light. Each sculpture is a paradox, heavy yet delicate, old yet reborn. Making these pieces requires more effort but not perfection. Collect discarded metal parts, wheels, pipes, tools no longer in use. Clean them, arrange them, and if you have access to welding or strong adhesives, bind them into forms that echo the natural world: flowers, birds, or abstract shapes. A helpful tip is to coat the finished piece with clear sealant to slow rusting, allowing it to weather gracefully while standing firm through the seasons. Placed strategically, these sculptures become focal points. A rusty wool turned into a sunburst can command attention at the end of a pathway. A cluster of scrap metal blooms can bring strength to a delicate flower bed. They don't hide their industrial roots. Instead, they celebrate them, proving that beauty can be forged as well as grown. In the end, these sculptures are storytellers. They speak of resilience, of finding elegance and strength, and of giving a second chance to what once seemed discarded. In their metallic gleam, the garden gains a voice both bold and timeless. Sometimes, the most enchanting garden structures are built not from new materials, but from pieces that once framed other lives. An old door that once opened into a home, a window that once looked out onto a street. When salvaged and reimagined, they can become walls and roofs of a greenhouse, sheltering tender seedlings with both light and history. Picture a small structure tucked into a backyard corner, its sides built from mismatched window frames, their panes catching sunlight from different angles. Inside, rows of seedlings stretch upward, basking in warmth. From the outside, it feels like a patchwork house of glass, imperfect, yet full of character, like a quilt stitched from memories. Building a mini greenhouse like this is both practical and poetic. Salvaged windows and doors already carry the perfect design, frames for holding light. With some nails, hinges, and creativity, they can be joined into a compact space that protects young plants from wind, frost, and pests. A practical tip is to use silicone sealant between panes to prevent drafts and to paint the wooden frames with weatherproof coating for longevity. These structures are especially useful for gardeners in cooler climates, where tender herbs and vegetables need extra care. And beyond their function, they stand as works of art, each unique, each reflecting the life of the materials it's built from. More than shelter, these mini greenhouses are metaphors. They remind us that growth often comes from protection, and that what once seemed outdated can still cradle new beginnings. Through the glass of an old window, you don't just see plants. You see resilience, renewal, and the quiet promise of life continuing on. Words have the power to guide, comfort, and inspire, even in a garden. When painted on recycled wood, simple phrases become companions for your walks among flowers and trees. A signpost made from old planks doesn't just point the way, it speaks to the heart, reminding us to slow down, breathe, and notice beauty. Picture a path winding through your backyard, where colorful wooden signs rise from the soil. One says, "Grow with grace." Another whispers, "Take it slow." Their paint is slightly weathered, the wood grain still visible, proof that each plank once had another life, perhaps part of a fence, perhaps a crate. Now, those pieces of wood carry not only plants, but wisdom. Making these signposts is wonderfully simple. Cut old boards into arrow shapes or rectangles, sand the surface, and paint them in cheerful colors or leave them rustic for a natural charm. Use stencils or freehand lettering to add your favorite garden quotes. A helpful tip: seal the signs with an outdoor varnish so that rain and sunlight don't fade the words too quickly. Placed along pathways, in herb beds, or beside benches, these signs transform the garden into more than just a place of growth. They make it a place of reflection. Each time you read the words, they echo gently, like small seeds planted in the heart. In truth, these recycled signposts remind us that inspiration doesn't have to come from books or screens. Sometimes, it waits in the garden, written on a piece of old wood, telling us to keep growing, to keep blooming, and to keep finding joy in the simple act of being alive. There's a quiet joy in sharing the garden, not only with plants, but with creatures that visit on fluttering wings. Old bowls, teapots, or colanders that once belonged in the kitchen can find new life outdoors, becoming bird baths and feeders that invite song and movement into your space. Suddenly, the garden doesn't just bloom with flowers, it sings with life. Imagine an enamel bowl, weathered but still strong, perched atop a wooden stand and filled with fresh water. A sparrow dips its wings, a butterfly hovers nearby, and sunlight dances across the ripples. Not far away, an old colander hangs from a tree, its perforations perfect for drainage, filled with seeds that attract finches and doves. What was once forgotten in the back of a cupboard now becomes the center of lively gatherings. Creating these features is simple. Any sturdy kitchenware can be adapted. Bowls become baths, teapots make whimsical feeders, pans serve as shallow water dishes. Drill holes or attach chains for hanging, and always ensure stability so that birds feel safe when they land. A helpful tip is to place baths in shaded areas to keep water cool and fresh, and refill them often to maintain a healthy haven for your feathered visitors. The beauty of these upcycled pieces lies in their charm. Each item carries history, a pot that once cooked meals, a bowl that once served a family. Now they offer nourishment again, but in a different way, sustaining the wildlife around us. These bird baths and feeders remind us of connection. They show that our gardens aren't just ours. They belong to the creatures who pass through, too. And in offering them a gift, we gain more than song. We gain the harmony of sharing space with nature.